Greetings from the Mosel. Thank you for joining us again today. Today we are talking about sweetness in wine. Or let me be precise, residual sweetness in wine. Because there is a difference. When you have a wine, like oftentimes Mosel wines, the classic style Mosel wines that have these wonderful, great, juicy fruit, these wines have a certain sweetness. And there are two ways of having a sweet wine. The classic way, and I think the most favorite way and favorable way to have a certain sweetness in the wine is natural residual sweetness. Why is it called natural residual sweetness? Because not all the sugar of the grape in the juice is fermented into alcohol. Some of the sugar stays in the wine as residual sweetness. It's natural grape sugar, and it is just left after the fermentation. This way you also have less alcohol in the wine because not all the sugar of the grape has been fermented into alcohol. In the 1960s, 1970s, it was here and there quite common to make the wine sweet with so-called sweet reserve, which is nothing but unfermented grape juice that you put into a dry wine that has completed fermentation all the way until there's no sugar left and everything is transformed into alcohol. And this way you made the wine sweet and gave it a sweet impression. I don't like that way of making a wine sweet because it is not comparable to natural residual sugar. When you have a dry wine and you add sweet reserve, you add juice, and juice, for a simple reason, tastes more sweet and cloying than wine with residual sugar. It's because in the beginning, before the fermentation starts, you have exactly 50% glucose and 50% fructose in the wine, and that makes 100% sugar. Now, yeasts are glucophile, which means they prefer to transform glucose into alcohol rather than fructose. Now, as the fermentation starts and proceeds, you end up having more fructose and less glucose because the yeasts have eaten up all the glucose or more glucose and have transformed it into alcohol because they like it much more. And what is left, most of the residual sugar, what is left is fructose, which has a very refined taste. Glucose tastes more cloying, more sticky. It is a less elegant sugar. It's heavy and just not as appealing. Fructose is very elegant. It has a juiciness. It gives the wine a very elegant, sweet impression. So that's a good thing. So if you stop the fermentation by adding the regular sulfur dosage, like almost every wine on this planet gets a sulfur dosage, or you don't have to stop the fermentation. Sometimes the fermentation slows down and stops automatically because the yeasts have gotten tired and weak. Then you also have residual sugar, and not all the sugar is transformed into alcohol. And usually you have more fructose, and then you have a wine with a really elegant sweetness impression that does not stick and that does not stay and linger. The sweetness disappears, and the sweetness has a very, very nice effect in the wine, especially with the acidity in Mosel wine and the saltiness of the minerality that comes from the slate soil. This is a great thing. Now, when the wine ages, the sugar molecules that are in the wine, they start to polymerize. They build longer chains. That's why the sweetness in Mosel wine steps back over time. The sweet impression gets less because these longer sugar molecules, this polymerization, causes less sweetness impression. The long carbohydrates taste less sweet, but they add to the structure of the wine. They give the wine more body, they give it more roundness, more creaminess, more balance. And this is very important. I always tend to say the three most important things in a wine start with a B: balance, balance, and balance. Now, if you have a wine that is a wine with natural residual sweetness from the Mosel that is 10 or 15 years old, the sweetness has turned into more of a roundness. The wine enters a new dimension. You don't just have a sweet, salty, and acidic impression. You also all of a sudden get a roundness, something full-bodied, and that's because of the aging of the sugar molecules in the wine. And it is something that is very hard to explain in words. This taste impression is something you really have to experience yourself. So please stop by, say hello here, and visit me at the winery, and I open a bottle of aged wines, and we can experience that extra dimension in an aged Mosel wine. Well, this was a little bit of insight into the world of Mosel wines with natural residual sweetness. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you join in again next time. And I say greetings from the Mosel.